Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the co-owner and creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I want to talk to you about manipulation in relationship dynamics. And I specifically want to hone in here on the different attachment styles and the way this shows up differently for different individuals. So what I'm going to do is do like a quick high-level overview of the dismissive avoidant, the anxious preoccupied, the fearful avoidant, and how and why each of these styles can be manipulative and what it's all about, okay? And I know like there's a lot of concepts and ideas that say if anybody's manipulative, they're a narcissist or things like that. That's not always true. And, you know, if we see pervasive, excessive manipulation, that can be one of a bunch of major symptoms that are related to narcissism. But what I've found is that individuals manipulate when they feel unable and unwilling to express their needs or to get them across to somebody else. So we're going to touch on like what this is and what to do about it from these different attachment style perspectives. Before I dive into all of this, we are still doing a sale to support our community right now. We're doing 25% off membership bundles for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. The coupon code is with you. It's all one word, and I'll put a link in the description box below and in this video here as well. So let's talk about it. Manipulation. So manipulation, yes, is a very unhealthy thing. It's a very toxic thing. And it's also a symptom of a lot of pain that's bubbling beneath the surface in anybody who's showing up in that form or in that way. So what I have found personally in my practice for a very long time is the single core underlying factor that leads to manipulation is people manipulate when they have these belief patterns in their head that are usually one of the following. I can't express my needs. And so what does that mean, right? Like if I can't express my needs, well, the brain is a needs meeting machine and people want to get their needs met in relationships. And so if somebody feels like they can't express their needs, they go in roundabout ways to get their needs met, which means if I can't express, for example, let's say I'm an anxious preoccupied and I can't express my need for validation or reassurance and I'm feeling insecure, then I'm likely to exhibit a protest behavior, like trying to make my partner jealous, which is a form of manipulation, right? It's manipulation to get the need met for validation or reassurance or reinforcement, right? To see that I can make somebody feel a certain way and it shows that they care. But all of these things are things that are going to wear away at a relationship dynamic over time. So this is belief pattern number one I see in people. That's really important to work on and really important to show up differently. And the style that I see that the two styles that I see that tend to have this the most are the anxious preoccupied and the fearful avoidant. Now, both of the dynamics here, because they tend to love through enmeshment, sometimes dismissive avoidance can have this idea that they can't get their needs met either. But it's usually for different things. It's usually not like, hey, I have a need from somebody else, like for validation or reassurance, and I'm too afraid to say it because I have a belief pattern that, you know, I maybe adopted from childhood that says my needs never get heard when they're expressed or something of that sort. So it won't be like I have a need from somebody else and I can't get it met, but I need it from that person, right? Dismissive avoidants tend to have this version. They have the version of I've given up on having needs from other people from a very long time ago. And so I really just need from myself. And it feels strange to even think of the concept or idea that I could need something from somebody in an interpersonal dynamic. And so because I don't need anything from somebody, I need somebody to not need anything from me. And that's usually what happens. And remember, the brain is always trying to achieve homeostasis. It's trying to have like equilibrium in relationships. And so if a dismissive avoidant feels like they can't get their needs met from somebody and they've written that off a long time ago, they don't even feel like they have a conscious desire to get a need met from somebody else, then right away, as soon as somebody requests something, it's out of balance, it's out of equilibrium, and this becomes problematic. So this is really important to recognize. The number two belief that I see that leads people to end up doing things that are manipulative, even though the number one is like the major one. The number two one that I often see is people aren't going to respect my boundaries anyways. And so I'll give you an example of this. I was speaking to somebody recently and she said to me, you know, I don't, when my friends or family or anybody calls, because I'm so used to people not understanding my boundaries. She's much younger and she's like doing a lot for her age in her work, and a lot of her peer group is like, you know, out having fun, and people have different expectations of her. And she leads a bit of a different lifestyle than the people she's surrounded herself with, essentially. And so she says, I know that I can't tell people, oh, I've got lots of work to do, because people are going to be like, oh, come on, it's the weekend, or things like this. And so she said, instead I just say, hey, I'm not feeling so great, or hey, I'm not able to, or I don't answer the phone, and so she was telling me these things that she does. And to a certain degree, there's like, maybe this isn't the exact analogy of manipulation, but it's like, it's dishonesty, it's a lie, it's something, and it's well intended. It's just somebody trying to sort of show up and protect themselves and not, disappoint somebody or something like that. But that person doesn't feel like they can communicate their needs, and they don't feel like they can set boundaries and that those boundaries will be respected. So instead they divert and they lie or manipulate the situation or the expression of themselves, most so in the situation, to try to not have to have conflict or an argument or something like that. And this brings us to the third most common reason people become manipulative, and this one falls most. So the other one tends to fall most, again, in fearful, avoidant, and anxious, preoccupied. This third one tends to show up the most by far for dismissive avoidance. And it's people will tend to be manipulative if they think they are just always going to be misunderstood and they don't want to explain themselves. And so this is something I see quite commonly for DAs who will deflect, who will avoid conflict, who will go to great lengths to show up differently in a situation, or say, I had a dismissive avoidant client say to me once that he would want to go out with his friends, but he felt like his anxious, preoccupied girlfriend would get jealous. And so he would just tell her all the time, oh yeah, Friday nights I see my family and I have family time and I'm present. And really he would go out and drink with his friends and do these things. And that's like a manipulative behavior or a dishonest behavior. But he was operating under these boundaries where it was like, I'm just going to be misunderstood and I fear conflict. And so he had these concepts and ideas at a belief level, like, oh, conflict's unsafe and I'm always going to be misunderstood. It's not going to go well. And so I go in a roundabout way. And so what you'll see is whether it's the fear of expressing a need, whether it's the belief that a boundary won't be respected anyways, or whether it's the belief that you are just going to be misunderstood and, can't get heard and it's just going to lead to conflict. All three of these things create the dynamics for dishonesty, for manipulation, and those things are what need to be broken down at a root level in order for manipulation to transform at the surface level. Now, the last thing I'll say before I wrap this video up is if you are in a relationship where somebody's doing this and manipulating, have a conversation, go direct and be like, what's going on? Why are these things coming up? What is the root reason? Dig into this stuff, bring things to the surface. But if this is something that's habitual, that's happening often, it wasn't like a one-off somewhere, you're probably in the wrong relationship. These sorts of things are toxic. And so if it's a one-off and you go to have a conversation and there's a change, beautiful, you've solved the problem. If it keeps happening repetitively and you've had the conversation and there's no change, then you want to be really careful because you're going to be in a dynamic that's always going to have distrust, fear, confusion, all these different dynamics. And we want to be in relationships and stay in relationships for how they make us feel on a regular basis. If that is less than optimal, we probably need to leave. So put in the work first, do what you can if it's safe to do so, and if it's not something that's extreme. And if you're not seeing a change, then you have to be able to set an absolute boundary so that you can move on and have peace and well-being in your life. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you're getting a lot of value out of these videos, and I will see you in the next video.